Hello everyone, welcome to Walk the Parks. My name is Blake. Today we're going to be doing a full hike to Hickman Bridge on the Hickman Bridge Trail. This is in beautiful Capitol Reef National Park. We are going to do the full hike all the way to this beautiful bridge right here and back. And also, if you are interested in seeing what the parking lot and stuff looks like and seeing exactly how to get there from the visitor center, you can tune in at the end. I do have like a video of me driving in, and so you can kind of check out the parking lot and see what that's like. This trail is very cool and a lot of reward for a little bit of effort. I'm going to read this sign to you in just a second, but the other thing I just wanted to point out is there are trail guides right next to this trailhead sign. So for a suggested, I think it's either a 50 cent or a $1 donation, you can pick up a trail guide. So I don't really stop at all the posts, but I'll try. I mean, at minimum, I'll read the trail guide. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it near the numbers, and hopefully, I'll catch them. The reason for that is my videos are kind of long, because it is the entire hike and because it is in real time speed. I try not to stop too much, because otherwise the videos will just become really, really long. Um, so you might be thinking to yourself, why on earth would I watch this video? I think there's a few reasons. Number one, you can kind of know what to expect. A lot of people want to kind of decide. Maybe you're going to Capitol Reef National Park. Which hikes should I do? Which hikes do I not want to do? How much time do I have when I go there? This will give you an idea of the entire hike. So you can kind of check it out. You can listen to me if you would like. I will talk through this entire video and kind of go over some tips and just talk about the area and the hike in general. Um, Another reason for watching this video is there's a ton of people around the world that probably will never make it to Capitol Reef National Park. It's a shame. It's an absolutely amazing place, but it's just the reality of the world, right? There's a ton of different reasons people won't go here, either by choice or against their choice or somewhere in the middle. So if you're one of those people, this kind of gives a more immersive experience, right? So it's a little bit different than like a big produced, TV show or YouTube video, just overview of the park. This kind of gets you a little bit more in depth and immersed into the park itself. So there you go. All right. So, looks like we're already on number two. So let me just read these. So first off, I want to read the trailhead sign to you guys. So the Hickman Bridge Trail. Along this trail, discover high desert views, traces of prehistoric American Indian culture, and evidence of the Civilian Conservation Corps' work in the early 1940s. After ascending through a scenic sandstone side canyon, ooh, that's a alliteration, scenic sandstone side canyon, the trail loops under the grand 133-foot, 41-meter span of Hickman Natural Bridge. Please stay on the trail to protect fragile desert plants. Climbing atop the bridge is prohibited. Additionally, so basically you gain about 400 feet in elevation on this, and it's kind of rated a moderate difficulty. The one-way distance to the bridge is about zero point 0.9 miles or 1.4 kilometers, and the sign does kind of show like an elevation profile. There is also a point where the trail splits that I'll try to point out. You can kind of continue on and go all the way up to the Rim Overlook slash Navajo Knobs Trail. And after turning off from the Hickman Bridge Trail, the Rim Overlook Trail follows rocky terraces, steadily climbing to spectacular vista 1,000 feet or 305 meters above Fruita and the Fremont River. The trail then continues another 2.4 miles, 3.9 kilometers, along dramatic slick rock and canyon rims, leading to panoramic views at Navajo Knobs. Carry water and use caution near cliff edges. And then there's a map and has some reminders: foot traffic only, pets prohibited on trail, no bicycles or other vehicles, use caution near cliff edges, lightning hazard during storms, and leave no trace. Leave no graffiti, stacked rocks, or any other trace of your visit. Then it has some kind of plants and animals you might encounter. You could see um, oh, sorry about that. Sorry, you could see a desert spiny lizard. You could also see a two-needle pinyon pine. You could also see a Whipple's fishhook cactus. You could see some narrow leaf yucca and also perhaps a desert cottontail. So all sorts of cool stuff. I love this park. It's absolutely beautiful. I think sometimes it like gets a little bit overshadowed by some of the other surrounding parks. Like if you were just asked to name a park in Utah, most people would probably say like Zion or Arches or Canyonlands or Bryce. But this is the fifth one, Capitol Reef. To be honest with you, I think it is quite underrated. There is amazing hiking here. There's all sorts of good stuff for people that are just kind of, more beginner hikers or people who are into more advanced hikes. That it kind of has it all. All right, so I'm going to read from, let's see, what number we're at here. We're at number 5. The black boulders around you may look out of place because they were transported from Boulder and Thousand Lakes Mountains about 15 miles or 24 kilometers west of here. Over 20 million years ago, lava flows covered these mountains with andesite, a volcanic rock. Over the last 150,000 years, small glaciers broke the rock into pieces that tumbled here in landslides and floods, rounding on their journey. Pretty cool. So again, I was kind of going on and on about how I love this park, but just look at it. Look at the surrounding area. I mean, that's the main road that goes through the park, but right next to the road, you just have these spectacular, high walls of canyons. You have all sorts of cool trails. It's just a very unique area. And the reason it is called Capitol Reef is, it's believed that in the past that this whole area was covered in water, to varying degrees. So, I mean, the remnants of that in Utah would be like Great Salt Lake, and then those big salt flats. But gosh, Utah is just fantastic. Every time I come here, I think to myself, no matter how much stuff I read about geology and things like that, I still think like, how on earth does this place exist? It seems like we're on another planet. And I think that's why it's so beautiful and why so many people visit it every year. All right, so here we come. This is where the trail splits. We're going to continue on and go to Hickman Bridge to the left. You could also go up to um, the Rim Overlook, which is 2 more miles, or go to Navajo Knobs, which is 4.2 miles. I have gone up there once, really pretty. My friend and I actually got a backcountry permit, and we went camping up there one time, and it was really fun. Just to remember, if you do want to camp in the backcountry here, there are some rules and regulations that I'm not going to go into. And please note that, see what number are we at there? I think that's at 6. Um, please note that you do have to get a permit. So you can obtain those at the visitor center. At the time of making this video, they're free of charge. Hopefully that remains, but who knows? I mean, a lot of places are for sure charging. Um, right now, I want to give a shout out to two groups of people. Number one, the Civilian Conservation Corps. They make absolutely amazing trails. I don't know if you noticed at the beginning or we'll see it at the end too, but there's all these like beautiful walls that are built. A lot of the CCC's work is just incredible. I've been lucky enough to go on a lot of their trails across the country, and most of them are incredibly good craftsmanship and kind of like almost overbuilt, dare I say. But it's just absolutely fantastic because they last a long time. And the second shout out is to the current park staff here. Thank you so much for all your effort you put into maintaining these trails and keeping them beautiful. And we'll throw in a third shout out, why not? And that is to all the humans that go here, because one of the things that's really cool is I didn't see a single piece of trash or anything my whole time in Capitol Reef National Park. That is absolutely amazing. And let's keep it that way. So number 7 here that we just passed. This south-facing slope summer heat allows only the strongest plants to hang on. With scale-like leaves and taproots up to 25 feet or 7.5 meters deep, Utah juniper trees are built to survive here. Look for their scraggly, twisting trunks and blue berry-like seed cones. Very cool. And speaking of south-facing summer heat, the best time to come to this area for sure is either in the fall or the spring. Summer can just be just super hot, and just so sunny, and you might think like, oh, that sounds great, but it's really not. The sun just beats down on you, and you really can have a tough time like keeping up with enough salt and liquid in your body. So just kind of keep that in mind. Maybe avoid summer, and winter can actually be really cold. All right, here we come on number 8. Do you notice any survival strategies in the plants around you? Next to the post, round leaf buffalo berries, silvery leaves reflect light to stay cool. Underneath, tiny hairs help hold in water. Across the trail, green ephedra has tiny scale-like leaves, photosynthesizing through its cluster of bright green stems instead. And this hike, I mean, Hickman Bridge is really cool, but as you can see, like you kind of have panoramic views the whole time, and that's the way a lot of the trails are in Capitol Reef National Park. You don't have to go too far on them to get pretty amazing results and pretty amazing, like spectacular views. One thing I will note though is a lot of the trails that are in the main part of the park are like the parking lots fill up quite early. So I'd recommend either hiking here if you're going to go to do the main trails, which are amazing, and like I said, they're kind of a lot of bang for your buck. Try to either start like super early and beat the crowd a little bit, or consider starting like later in the afternoon. Obviously, keep track of when sunset is so that you're not putting yourself in any sort of danger. And if you do, go on a hike when it's going to be near dark, just make sure to bring a headlamp or a flashlight. Just a random side tangent. It amazes me that headlamps aren't more popular in the mainstream culture. I guess they make you look a little nerdy maybe, but I don't even know, but they're so much better than flashlights cuz you can put them on your head and then you have both hands free. But with a flashlight, one of your hands is always being used. But a headlamp, everywhere you look, the light is being shown. The light shines, so like that's what you want. And then anyway, just a random piece of knowledge. It blows my mind that flashlights are so popular because headlamp you just like quickly put on your head and then you can see all around you. Is it because your hair gets messed up? Is it because I don't know? It's just one of those weird things. Maybe it's just market, like they've been around longer and it's harder to sell a new product in the industry. But I'm telling you, headlamps are way better, even if they mess up your hair a little. All right, so we just passed number 9. It says animals also manage to survive in this desert. The white-tailed antelope squirrel is one of the few animals that is active in the heat of the day. This ground squirrel holds its white, bushy tail over its back as it runs. It allows its body temperature to get up to 106 degrees Fahrenheit or 41 degrees Celsius. Spreads saliva over its face to keep cool and hide in its burrow when it's too hot. Most other mammals avoid the heat by being active at night. So I want to say I think I might have gotten a little bit lost like here like I might have gone off trail completely unintentionally. And I sincerely apologize for that. All right, and then that was I think we just passed 10 and 11. And of course you could go back and like pause these videos if you're interested in that. So number 10, people have lived here and used this area for thousands of years. Food, medicine, and crafting materials are all around you. Ahead, a pinyon pine tree offers nutritious seeds and sturdy wood sturdy wood. Next to the post, a short spiky yucca has fibers useful for making mats, baskets, rope, and nets. The sharp tips make good needles, and the roots can be eaten or mashed into a shampoo. That's pretty cool. So, like I said, I do my absolute best to stay on trail. I know, it can be bad to go off trail because you can kind of trample, the fragile desert plants. There's this stuff called cryptobiotic soil that really just like looks like dirt with like a little bit of a kind of texture to it. It might be a little bit like darker color typically. And it might just look like, oh, that's just dirt. But if you do happen to walk on it and kind of trample it, it can take a really long time for it to grow back. So that's kind of an important thing about this ecosystem. So we always try to stay on trail. However, one thing I want to note is that, like I said, I think I do get off trail somewhere around where I am right now. And I just want to mention that navigation can be challenging, right? So a lot of times you're on these slick rocks and there's not, or kind of on stream beds, and there's not really like a ton of trail markings, right? Like most of the country, like if you're in the forest, there's a very well defined trail that you're following, but that's not really the case in the desert. You're frequently either at the bottom of washes, and a wash is like a stream with no water, like this right here, like a sandy wash, or you're on slick rock. So that's what we were just on, just hard, literally slick rock. And it can be challenging for navigation. So take your time. I don't think I was super off trail right there, but for some reason I thought I might have been off trail. Or maybe that wasn't the exact place. I just remember when I was hiking this trail, I got off trail for a second and I was like, no, I don't want to be off trail. I want to I want this place to last as long as possible for as many people that follow. So I do my best to stay on trail. All right, number 13. Let's see here. Below you is a small natural bridge, a younger version of Hickman Bridge. The rocks around you are in layers of alternating soft siltstone and hard sandstone. Natural bridges are carved as water erodes softer rock underneath a harder stretch of rock that becomes the bridge. This bridge will likely grow larger as water continues to erode the rock underneath. And like I said, this trail is so cool. Like these trails in Capitol Reef National Park tend to offer a ton of bang for their buck. And this is kind of an example, right? We've already kind of gone on slick rock. We're kind of going in washes. We're kind of scrambling a little tiny bit, not bad, but scrambling a little bit, just like really high amounts of adventure for not an extreme amount of effort. I mean, sure, you do have to climb to get up here. It's not for everyone, but look how cool it is. Look at these beautiful rocks sitting on the side of the trail. I don't know if you can tell. Hiking is amazing. I love exploring our beautiful world. It just makes me so excited. All right, so here we are, number 14. So off in the distance, ahead to the right, is your first glimpse of Hickman Bridge. Can you see it? Across the canyon from you, there are holes in these rocks called solution holes, made by water dissolving the cement that holds the sand grains together in the sandstone. Watch for the sign ahead directing you to follow the trail to the right. Uh-oh, so is this where I get off trail? Let's see. See, that's good to pick up and read this little trail guide too, because it kind of gives you navigational hints too. So beautiful. I did this one first thing in the morning, and notice how we haven't really seen anyone yet, and just fantastic. But frequently, this trailhead, like in the several times I've been to this park, is kind of overflowing, and the road outside it is kind of overflowing. There's some other trails that are fairly close too, so kind of keep that in mind. And as I said, winter's kind of too cold, summer can be a little bit too hot. So fall and spring tends to be the time when most people go and visit, so it can make it a little bit I don't want to use the term crowded, but it can make it just a little bit challenging to find parking at some of the parking areas during during the peak season. All right, cool. So then there's like this little map right here, and it's basically telling us that the trail goes underneath the bridge and goes around. So we're gonna kind of now we're going on a loop, as it said loop trail. If you want to go back and pause that and look at it, and just look at the surrounding area too. So not only is the bridge cool, but we have all these amazing rock structures. So Hickman Bridge is 100, and this is number 15. I don't know that we're at number 15 yet, but we're going to talk about Hickman Bridge. It's 133 feet or 40 meters long and 125 feet or 37 meters high. The bridge is named for early park promoter Joseph Hickman. He and his friend Ephraim Pechtel worked in the 1920s to establish a park called Wayne Wonderland, now called Capitol Reef. That's interesting. It used to be called Wayne Wonderland. Under the bridge, historic names and dates are inscribed in the rocks. To protect these memories of pioneer days, writing on rock is now illegal. Graffiti permanently defaces the park's natural and cultural treasures. What do you guys think? Does this video make you want to go and check this out at Capitol Reef? Honestly, it's pretty cool. I'm glad I went during the morning. Absolutely beautiful. One last, I didn't include my third reason to watch the video, and that is just have it on in the background. You don't necessarily have to listen to me. You could mute me out, but a lot of times I just like having this stuff. It's like a cool kind of relaxing, like especially at work, I'll put them on, or if I'm just hanging out working on something at home, like I'll just have one of these videos playing in the background. Usually I mute myself. So here we are, me taking pictures of Hickman Bridge. Yes, I have a very, very, very bright orange case on my phone. I switch it off. In my civilized life, I like to keep a more darker colored, but anytime I go hiking and stuff, I like to have the orange case on, and the reason for that is if I put my phone down, I can, or if it drops or something, I can very easily find it if it's bright orange. Whereas if it's like a darker color, it's more difficult to find. That's one of those things you really start learning, like especially backpacking, is you always want to do the scan, right? Like every time you get up, you want to like look around, like, do I have my trekking poles? Do I have my sunglasses? Do I have everything else? So now the trail gets pretty cool. We're gonna go and we're gonna hike under the bridge. It says graffiti is illegal and unsightly, and I completely agree with that. You know, one of the things is this area is so beautiful. Sometimes a lot of people do visit here. We really want to keep it, for people hundreds of years from now. It'd be really cool if someone could come here and have a very similar experience. So here we are, Hickman Bridge. It's cool too. I like how the trail just goes right underneath. Adds some more adventure. Like I said, very cool trail. I do want to say, this video is about 45 minutes long or so. Um, I'm quite a fast hiker, and I've edited out all my breaks. I did take a couple breaks. Coming up here, I took a really long break, but like I said, I edited that out. So I would give yourself a lot more time. And I also and also if you're not used to this type of terrain, like if it's your first time visiting areas like this, give yourself a little bit more time on all the hikes, just because navigation can be a little tricky. Like I was saying, without that fully defined trail, 'cause you're kind of navigating on slick rock and trying to figure stuff out. All right, we just passed 16, which says, as you walk under Hickman Bridge, imagine the canyon as it looked when this bridge was like the small one at post 13. Visualize water cutting bit by bit into the canyon, finding softer layers and weak spots where undercuts and holes are today. As the undercuts grow, large blocks would break off and fall from the walls. The trail turns left after you pass under the bridge. There's me looking back, but we've already kind of taken our left. And again, now we're in kind of just another little area. Sometimes, like, there's areas where, to the right where there's little kind of holes in the rock or little like nooks and crannies. And I always imagine that just because they always talk about how this area might have been underwater. But I always imagine that like that makes me think like, okay, I could picture that. I could picture that being like little homes to little sea creatures and stuff like that. But but again, it's hard to believe in this like dry desert area that used to be all underwater. Very, very cool. We'll just sit and hang out for a little while here and enjoy that view in the distance. Absolutely beautiful. So, just to read from some of the park literature, starting elevations for many trails in Capitol Reef is around 5,000 feet or 1,524 meters, which can make even easy trails challenging for people visiting from lower elevations. And parking at many trailheads fills by 9 a.m. and remains crowded until after 4 p.m. If you have time, plan to hike early or late in the day. And just a side note from me, there's really great. The Capitol Reef website is awesome. There's all sorts of literature on it, on this park. So you might want to check that out or stop by the visitor center, which can be very helpful. I don't know whether it's me or the park, but it seems like I just haven't looked hard on other sites, but they have a ton of literature on this park. So they've done a great job kind of having that. All right, we're at number 17. It says here, water shapes everything. It dictates where plants can grow. It draws people and animals to its banks, pools, and pockets. It reveals ancient histories stored in rocks and fossils. It carves the sheer cliffs and domed rocks that inspire people to protect this place. Without water, Capitol Reef would not exist. All right, I can get behind that. So here's a little 360 view. That's where I took quite a long break, and it's a fantastic spot for it if I'm being honest. There's a little post here that tells us that the trail kind of goes down and to the left. And as you can see, the sun is just starting to rise over the rock. So I put my sunglasses on just as I drop back into the shade. So now we've kind of reached the far point in the loop and we're pretty much headed back. We are going to reach the end of the loop in just a couple of minutes here, and then we'll kind of continue back. I think I did stop at some more of the posts. I didn't read all of them to you, so we'll read a bit more of the posts. Gosh, look at this view. All right, I'm gonna be quiet for a minute and we'll just enjoy this. All right, so that sign right there, I don't know if I turn around and look at it, but that is the end of the loop. I think I do go back. Yep. So that's the end of the loop with that. That's that cool sign with the map on it. And we're really headed back now. But it's okay. I mean, I feel like sometimes I've heard people make comments like, "Oh, I wish that." Yeah, look how cool that is. Like, they're looking always looking for loop hikes, and some people kind of get disappointed. They might be like, "Oh, an out and back hike. I'd really rather do a loop." But I would argue that the views are so different either way you go. Also, I've been really lucky to live in a lot of beautiful places just by choice. I've kind of, you know, I feel like in a lot of ways it's worth a little bit more higher rent and stuff like that to live somewhere where there's adventures near you, because you end up being able to go on adventures all the time. Like if you live somewhere where people tend to go on vacations, it's really cool if you take advantage of the surroundings. And sometimes I'll go on hikes like over and over and over and over again, like that either are close to my house or that are just cool. And I don't know whether I'm just a weirdo, but they're so different like most of the time. I mean, sometimes it's just for fitness, but there's also so many times when it's just like absolutely beautiful. And, the weather changes, which changes the hike and things like that. So I'd encourage you to, yeah, for number 14 there, that's when we're seeing Hickman Bridge in the distance. I already read that one to you. But anyway, I would encourage everybody to, just try to enjoy things for what they are. It's really easy to be critical. I feel like our modern world, we're always like reviewing things, and, we have to fail to step back sometimes and just focus on the positive. Things are awesome. It's nice to be outside, especially here. It's beautiful to just see the rocks around us. Um, all right, I'll get off my lovey-dovey stance, but I think that's how I've been lucky enough. I think at this point I've hiked over 20,000 miles, and I'm lucky enough to still really enjoy it. So I think that's just part of my psyche. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't just kind of force myself to do it. So you can see someone over to the left, and it's like, I don't know whether they got lost. I think they're just checking out something else. If you are going to go off trail, first off, try not to. But if you are going to explore and regulations do permit it, there's really like three surfaces that are good to stay on. One would be the designated trail. The second would be um, like slick rock. So if you're walking directly on slick rock and there's no vegetation or anything. And then lastly, kind of where we are now at the bottom of a wash. So again, a wash is a stream bed in the desert that typically doesn't have water. One other thing to keep in mind in the desert is that when it does rain, it can be um, like the soil and a lot of the slick rock is not very permeable. So that means it doesn't absorb water. The water just kind of rushes off of it. So what that means is like rain from a huge area can all wash into the bottom of a canyon at a very fast rate. And that would be called a flash flood. And you definitely want to be careful. Speaking of that, number 12. Imagine water rushing through this canyon during a heavy rainstorm. The shelf in front of you becomes a waterfall, filling the pool below. Under the surface, water is insulated from evaporation by sand, allowing willow shrubs to grow in the bottom of the wash. The trail ahead crosses sandstone, which can be slippery when wet or covered with loose sand, giving it the name Slick Rock. Watch your step. So that was another post kind of telling us to stay on trail. And again, kudos to the all the workers and like trail maintainers in Capitol Reef National Park because it's such a difficult job, I feel like, particularly in this kind of terrain, because you don't necessarily want to put signs everywhere. If signs were everywhere, people would be, it kind of takes a little bit away from that wilderness experience. But at the same time, you want to kind of keep people going on the same path so there's not just a 5,000 paths going everywhere. And something crazy in the desert is that can kind of happen. Like paths can go everywhere very easily. Like if you just walk on something a couple times. All right, number 11. You are standing in a wash that is dry most of the time. When heavy rain falls in this small valley, this dry wash turns into a rock carving river. On your right is sandstone. On your left, the dirt looking material is a softer rock, siltstone. Sand, with coarser grains, feels gritty between your fingers, and silt feels smooth. Notice the difference in the shape of the rock as water carves hard sandstone into blocks and softer siltstone into a smoother slope. Excuse me. I hope you guys get to go here. This park is so beautiful. This trail's awesome too. I'm laughing at myself because I'm thinking like, is there any trail I would really review as bad? Like because really, even at the basic level, it's just nice to be outside. And, even though some trails can be extremely challenging, like particularly if there's a lot of elevation gain, or if you're here in the summer, this would probably be a nightmare because there's almost no shade and things like that. But for the most part, it's just fun to get outside, especially in our modern world. We're so focused on our cell phones and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I love technology. I film this, and I love my phone. Some of my videos, I'm kind of embarrassed the amount of times I pull my phone out and you can kind of see it. But it's all right. Keep honest with myself. Oh my gosh, look at that. The background, that is fantastic. Absolutely beautiful. I think the name is something pyramid. Maybe one of these signposts will tell us. All right, so here we are at number 9. I think I read that one already. Yep, that one talks about the squirrel is one of the only animals that goes out during the day in the heat of the day. I heard somebody make a joke like once that humans are really like they're kind of making fun of humans because we're the only animal dumb enough to go out in the middle of the day all the time. Because almost all animals, are most active either, that bright early morning time or that evening time, or there's a lot of nocturnal animals. But humans, we just go for it, send it out there in the sun. But I guess we've created, sun protective clothing and things like that. And just a reminder, things to bring, some nice sturdy shoes with some good traction on them. Don't necessarily want to be here in dress shoes that might have no traction or lugs on the bottom at all. Also consider, wicking clothing. Like a lot of times, they say the big thing is like cotton kills, like you want to avoid wearing cotton. To be honest, in the desert, cotton isn't that bad, like when it's hot, because then your shirt stays wet. Like that's usually the problem. Like if it stays wet and it's cold, it'll make you significantly colder. But if it's really hot, cotton's actually good because it stays wet, like with your sweat, or if you were to dump water over yourself, and it'll kind of continually cool you. But for the most part, kind of more wicking fabrics, like some sort of polyester, is recommended for hiking. I really strongly prefer sun hoodies, but that's my preference. You don't need that. So I already read that one. That's about plants surviving. And look at this. I just love the views on this trail, though. That beautiful. I believe that's something pyramid. I believe is the name of what we're looking at there. Pardon my ignorance. Always learning something new. So here we go. This is like maybe the first people I've encountered. Maybe I passed people earlier. I don't remember. One thing I like too is that, frequently people are really nice to each other in the wilderness. You can at least say hi to people. Seems like the farther out you go too, like the more likely people are to say hello to you, which I really like. So that was talking about the south-facing plants and how Utah juniper trees can have roots up to 25 feet or 7.5 meters deep, which is pretty crazy. But it makes sense. Tough place to survive here. It's also so interesting to think like how flash floods like carve so much of this, but it's also such a dry valley. So this post here, a lot of them have little signs on them saying like this is not a camera, this is just a trail counter. So I think it's just like a motion sensor. They kind of want to get an idea of how many people are using the trail. And that's a fairly common thing in national parks and kind of a lot of trails really. All right, I'll read a little bit more from the website. Always carry water. Summer can bring monsoon rains and dangerous flash floods. All right, let's see number 6. Did I read number 6? Look for a dark, bumpy covering on the sand a few feet in front of you off the trail. This biological soil crust is made of many tiny living things, including cyanobacteria, lichen, mosses, green algae, fungi, and bacteria. This community keeps the sand in place and clutches to water like a sponge, allowing plants to find a foothold. The important work of soil crust is just a footstep from collapse. Stay on the trail. Recovery can take decades to centuries. So that's pretty crazy. That was that cryptobiotic soil I was talking about before. Look at this. I'm glad I took a video. It's like absolutely beautiful. All right. So 2 points to waking up super early and going on a hike. I know it can be hard. I mean, camping especially. Super happy with the current setup I have or had on this trip because I've been sleeping in my truck bed. And while I find it really nice, it's like super secure. Although on really hot days, if I'm being critical, it can be a little bit hot there, like because the windows aren't the biggest. But I can just get up and go. Like I'm pretty much just I don't really set up anything, so it's awesome. It really helps me just get out of camp and go because I know sometimes it can be easy to get kind of suckered in and just you either want to sleep in or it's like oh you got to take down the tent and do all that. I also tend to while I do love a good fancy breakfast, I also a lot of times I'll just grab a bar or something like that, or just have something really simple so that don't have to worry about it. Fine, hiking, what do they say? The best spice is hunger. So as long as you build up some hunger, anything kind of tastes good. All right, so this is number 5. Oh, this was talking about the black boulders around us, transported from about 15 miles west of here. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's Civilian Conservation Corps in the 40s. I believe it was formed like after the Great Depression. They were trying to kind of recover the economy and give people some jobs and really kind of build up the infrastructure. But if you see them, there's so many amazing trails they've built around the country. And you'll hear that's kind of a recurring theme in natural places like national parks. All right, so there we go. Number 4. About 200 million years ago, the rocks you are standing on were laid down in changing environments. Streams and rivers carried mud, silt, and sand across the land, forming the mudstone, siltstone, and sandstone of the Kayenta Formation. As the environment dried, wind-blown sand amassed into a vast dune field. Today's cream-colored Navajo sandstone forms iconic domes and shows traces of migrating dunes. The sweeping diagonal cross bedding patterns in the cliffs show ancient wind patterns dripping downward with the prevailing direction of the wind at the time. And then at number 3, we're kind of looking down at this river that you can kind of see down here. And it says the river meanders through the valley, changing its path whenever it floods. When State Route 24 was built in the early 1960s, it restricted the river to a smaller part of the valley. Now, when the river floods, it threatens to wash out the road. The boulders you see where the river runs near the highway were placed there to protect the road. feel like that's true of a lot of roads. That we'd build a ton of roads right next to rivers and creeks and waterways. So, obviously we're starting to see a few more people now because getting their day started. And we're really almost back. So I'll just read the other two that we're about to approach. So number one is the Fremont River is the largest year-round water source in Capitol Reef. Its valley is one of the few paths through the cliffs of the Water Pocket Fold, a nearly 100-mile long, 160-kilometer wrinkle in the Earth's crust. For thousands of years, the river has been forming this canyon and supporting life. And it says, number two, above the river, how do the surrounding plants change? Cottonwood trees and willow shrubs grow thick along the riverbank. But up the slopes, plants must tolerate dry conditions. Many desert plants have small leaves to help conserve water, like the rabbit brush near you. Less surface area allows less evaporation. There's kind of a warning sign here that kind of tells you to keep going. Rockfall hazard area, don't stop on the trail. Kind of keep going because there is rocks that can fall on you. So we're approaching the end of the trail now, and then I'm gonna stay with you a little bit longer though because I do show also the drive. So again, I try to just kind of get right into the action. Usually my formula so far is to show a few pictures at the beginning, like of the trailhead sign, and maybe have one of the natural bridge, Hickman Bridge, that we visit on this hike, and a picture of the trail guide, which is cool. And then I put the driving to it at the end because I really want to get right into the action. So here's a cool wall here. I'm not sure when this was built, but you do frequently see kind of amazing, time-consuming, beautiful rock wall structures like that on a lot of CCC or Civilian Conservation Corps trails. They really do a fantastic job. But like I said, that looks pretty new, so it might be from the park. So I don't want to give all the credit because I'm not sure exactly who it goes to. So as you can see, we're kind of approaching the parking lot now, and this hike is done. Thanks so much for joining me. But stay tuned if you are interested in checking out the drive, and I'll commentate that just a little bit because why not? And you can either you can put there's a little box there asking for donations, and then you can put the flyer back right here. All right, cool. So this video is starting from the visitor center. So we're gonna take a right. So the visitor center there was on my left, but we're leaving the visitor center and we're gonna take a right. As I mentioned, the visitor center is pretty cool and super useful. If you ask questions there's all sorts of literature and awesome things you can obtain there. Also a water spigot for your needs. And now we just have this beautiful drive. A lot of times I'll like way speed up my drives. This one I don't know that I sped up that much. Beautiful sky though. And I know, one thing I've noticed, I've been watching people's videos on YouTube of like their car angles. Mine has some improvement to do, but I think you get the basic gist. Seems like the best angles is like if you suction cup it to the front of your hood, but not sure I'll leave that to people that are my focus is more in the back country. So I'll leave that to some others to do that really well because there's quite a few people that do. So this is called Fruta. There's all sorts of orchards here. There's also a really cool like little shop and slash historic building in the park that sells pies. So it's called the Gifford House. And even though sadly I've never gone in the Gifford House, which like blows my mind. But anyway, apparently there's pretty good pie in there. So check that out. I promise next time I'm at Capitol Reef National Park, I will go. But I've heard great things. All right, so we're approaching. There's some petroglyphs off to the left here that we're not going to go to. Those are really cool though, and don't require too much effort to go to. There's kind of a cool wooden boardwalk that you can go to see some cool petroglyphs, which is like ancient rock art by the ancestral Puebloan people, which is the kind of general term for the different groups of people that have lived in this area over the ages. I also like to, to just imagine what it's like, what it must have been like just to live here full time. Seems challenging, but who knows? Maybe that was more of a lush time. Maybe something like that. So maybe there are a lot more animals, a lot more water. Otherwise, it seems challenging. But I suppose if there is a place to live here, right in the river valley, must be nice. And because of the super steep walls on either side, possibly animals go through, and it might be easy for a little bit easier for hunting, and then the water and the orchards can make it a little bit easier for farming. So it kind of makes sense that maybe they would live in this area. A lot of my trip was quite cloudy, and I do want to mention that it's kind of, I don't want to say rare, but the most common weather pattern in this whole area is like bluebird sky, not a cloud in the sky, kind of sunny and awesome. All right, so here we go. This is going to say Hickman Natural Bridge, take a left. As you can see, there's a bunch of cars. This was shot at a different time than when I went. So there's a bunch of different cars. And basically, we're just going to take a left and go in there. Well, we're actually not going to, but that shows the thing. Have a great day.